XRP Coin versus SOL Coin. Which is a better hold? XRP and SOL are telling two completely different stories, yet their results since the beginning of 2026 are almost identical. XRP has fallen nearly 43% from around $1.88 to $1.07, while SOL has also dropped about 42% from nearly $127 to just $73. The performance gap between the two coins is only about 1%, but behind this decline are two completely different investment choices. XRP is betting on cross-border payments, institutional adoption, and Ripple's legal progress, while Solana relies on network speed, the DeFi ecosystem, consumer applications, and speculative capital. So when both have lost more than 40% of their value, which coin is currently undervalued by the market, and which one is simply being supported by an attractive narrative? If investors could only choose XRP or SOL to hold for the next stage, should they bet on Ripple's real-world utility or the growth potential of the Solana ecosystem? In this video, Crypto Radar will directly compare the data, the factors affecting prices, and determine which coin truly offers the more attractive risk-to-reward ratio. Let's explore everything together. Crypto Radar. To properly understand the competition between XRP, Ripple, and Solana, we need to look beyond price movements. This is actually a battle between two very different blockchain models. XRP Ledger focuses on payments, money transfers, and tokenized financial assets, while Solana is built as a high-performance platform for DeFi, trading, payments, gaming, and large-scale Web3 applications. In terms of network performance, during the first quarter of 2026, XRP Ledger processed an average of approximately 2.48 million transactions per day, up 35.3% from the previous quarter. The average number of active addresses reached nearly 49,800 per day, an increase of 1.7%. This indicates that network activity has improved, but the growth in users remains slower than the growth in transaction volume. In other words, XRPL is being used more frequently, but it has not yet demonstrated a large wave of new users comparable to blockchains focused on consumer applications. At the time of recording, XRP Ledger had approximately $32.13 million in DeFi TVL. Over the past 24 hours, DEX trading volume reached around $2.15 million. The number of active addresses was 32,306, and total application fees were approximately $7,151. Network fees and blockchain revenue were both around $238. These figures show that the XRP ecosystem is no longer centered solely on transferring XRP between wallets, but is gradually expanding into stablecoins, decentralized exchanges, and tokenized real-world assets. One notable development is that Ondo Finance's tokenized U.S. Treasury Fund, OUSG, has become operational on XRP Ledger and can be issued or redeemed through RLUSD. In June 2026, Ripple also introduced its plan to develop a native lending protocol on XRPL, aiming to bring lending and collateralized assets onto the blockchain. Then, on July 23, 2026, Ripple launched Ripple Mint, a platform that enables institutions to issue, redeem, and manage RLUSD through either a user interface or direct software integration. This demonstrates that XRP's development direction is shifting from being purely a payment coin toward becoming infrastructure for stablecoins, lending, and tokenized financial assets. Solana Crypto combines proof of stake with proof of history, where proof of history acts as a time-marking system that helps validators arrange transactions more efficiently. Solana's current research page puts the figure at around 55,000 TPS in theory, while actual performance depends on the type of transaction, network needs, and computational resources used. The biggest difference lies in the size of use. Solana coin has a TVL of about $4.75 billion, a stablecoin capitalization of $15.64 billion, and nearly $1.93 billion in tokenized real assets. In 24 hours, DEX trading volume reached $1.26 billion, with about 1.65 million active addresses. Sol is trading around $72.89, with a market cap of around $42.37 billion. These figures cannot be compared on a par with XRPL because of the different transaction calculations and architectures of the two networks, but the gap is still large enough to reflect the level of activity of the Solana ecosystem. If we compare the two networks using the same data source, the amount of stablecoins on Solana is currently about 15 times larger than on XRPL. The number of daily active addresses is approximately 57 times higher, and DEX trading volume is more than 400 times greater. In May 2026, Solana exceeded $16.4 billion in stablecoins and $2.8 billion in tokenized real-world assets. The network also accounted for 97% of the cumulative spot trading volume of tokenized stocks across blockchain markets at that time. This shows that Solana is no longer dependent solely on NFTs or Solana meme coins, but is rapidly expanding into stablecoins, payments, derivatives trading, and traditional financial assets. If you want to delve deeper into XRP's own price scenarios, including the possibility that XRP could reach $5 in 2026, you can watch the video XRP Price Prediction. Is $5 possible in 2026? Latest update on the Crypto Radar channel. In today's comparison, we need to go beyond the price chart. What is really impacting XRP and SOL? What factors can drive one coin to recover while the other continues to move sideways or weaken? Let's move on to part 2 right now. For Ripple XRP, the biggest impact factor for many years has been the regulatory environment in the US. The lawsuit between the SEC and Ripple has caused XRP to be restricted by many exchanges, while creating a reticence for institutions who want to come into contact with the asset. By 2025, the SEC and Ripple have agreed to withdraw their appeals. However, it should be said correctly that Ripple was not completely cleared of all liability. The final ruling, which included a fine of more than $125 million and a ban on Ripple continuing to violate securities registration regulations, remained in place after the two parties ended their appeals. However, the fact that the years-long legal battle no longer continues removes a large part of the uncertainty that once weighed on XRP. The second driving force is the ability of Ripple and the XRP ledger to attract real-world financial activity. Ripple is expanding RLUSD, developing the Ripple Mint so institutions can issue and exchange stablecoins, and building infrastructure for tokenized assets and lending operations on the XRP ledger. If banks, payment companies, and businesses use XRP as a bridge asset to switch between currencies or liquidity pools, the demand for XRP updates could increase with the actual payment volume. The third factor is the supply controlled by Ripple. According to records published in June 2026, approximately 32.75 billion XRP of crypto, or almost 32.75% of the total maximum supply, remains in Ripple's escrow contracts. The escrow mechanism helps the market know ahead of time the unlocking schedule, but this large volume still creates a hanging supply above the market. The portion of XRP that is not used in each unblock is often put back into escrow, so a billion XRP unlocked doesn't mean the entire amount is immediately sold. However, any increase in the amount of XRP actually put into circulation could reduce the impact of new cash flow purchases. ETFs have also become a de facto driving force for Solana. Products such as Bitwise Solana Staking ETF, Grayscale Solana Staking ETF, Franklin Solana ETF, and 21 Shares Solana ETF not only provide exposure to SOL prices, but some funds can also staking the number of crypto Solana holdings. Technical factors also have a big impact on expectations for Solana Sol. In July 2026, Solana raised the limit of computation per block from 60 million to 100 million compute units, equivalent to a 66% capacity increase. The network is also developing Alpenglow with the goal of reducing confirmation times to around 150 milliseconds, as well as improvements in Solana Fire Dancer, transaction size, and storage costs. If these upgrades are implemented stably, Solana can handle more real-time financial and payment applications. But if the upgrade fails or the network continues to run into problems as traffic surges, trust in the SOL could suffer immediately. Solana's biggest risk is that part of the network operation remains tied to short-life speculation. The meme helps Solana generate users, transaction volume, and fee revenue, but this cash flow can disappear quickly as the market moves into a defensive trend. In addition to their own individual factors, both XRP and SOL remain heavily influenced by Bitcoin, global liquidity, interest rates, the US dollar, and investors' risk appetite. So between an XRP that is betting on institutional capital and a SOL that leads in ecosystem growth, which one is the better long-term hold? Let's find out the answer in the final part of this video. The better choice depends not only on which coin has a more compelling story, but also on how likely that story is to generate actual token buying demand. XRP's most compelling investment case lies in its access to institutional capital flows. As of early March 2026, 5 XRP spot ETFs in the US have attracted total inflows of more than $1.5 billion and hold around 769 million XRP. This is evidence that XRP still holds great appeal to professional investors, even during a period of unfavorable cryptocurrency altcoins markets. ETFs also give funds, financial advisors, and traditional investors exposure to XRP without directly managing a wallet or digital asset. XRP also has the advantage of a fixed maximum supply of 100 billion tokens. Ripple once put 55 billion XRP into the escrow system in order to create a more predictable release schedule. If demand from ETFs, payments, and institutions increases while the speed of bringing new XRP into circulation is controlled, the fixed supply could become a price support factor. However, the large amount of XRP controlled by Ripple also creates concentration risk and potential supply pressure that long-term investors should not overlook. The biggest weakness in the hold XRP argument is that the link between Ripple's growth and the value of XRP has not always been direct. Ripple can scale custody, payments, stablecoins, or provide infrastructure for banks, but not every product requires customers to buy and hold large amounts of XRP. XRP also does not have a staking mechanism that creates a natural yield. Investors primarily profit when the price of XRP rises. That makes the hold strategy highly dependent on new cash flows, partnership announcements, ETF demand, and the speed of institutional application. For SOL, the hold argument is more closely related to the operation of the network itself. SOL is used to pay fees, staking, secure the blockchain, and interact with applications. When users trade stablecoins, use decentralized exchanges, borrow assets, buy crypto assets, or join Web3 applications, SOL has a direct role in that process. In other words, the more economic activity Solana attracts, the more likely it is to shape demand for SOL. The risk of SOL is also greater than XRP in some respects. Operations on Solana remain heavily influenced by speculative trading, meme coins, and DeFi cash flows. As risk appetite drops, liquidity can withdraw from the ecosystem very quickly. Solana also has to compete with Ethereum, Layer 2 networks, Sui, and many other high-performance blockchains. In addition, the complex architecture and fast development speed make the stability of the network always a factor to watch. XRP has a simpler and more specialized model. It does not need to win the DApp, NFT, or meme coin race to succeed. Looking only at the price charts, both SOL and XRP remain in medium-term downtrends. SOL 2026 is currently trading around $72.57, approximately 75% below the peak of nearly $295 reached in early 2025. After falling sharply from the $240 to $250 range at the end of 2025, SOL has continued to form lower highs around $145, $120, $95, and then $80. This indicates that sellers are still controlling the primary trend. However, the price is now returning to the $60 to $75 range, which previously served as an accumulation zone and the starting point of the major rally at the end of 2023. Therefore, this could be an important long-term support area, although there is still not enough evidence to confirm that a bottom has formed. The XRP chart also shows a clear downtrend. XRP is currently trading around $1.07, down nearly 70% from its peak of approximately $3.5 to $3.6 in the middle of 2025. After its sharp rally in late 2024, the price remained above $2 for most of 2025 but failed to hold that level. Since the end of 2025, XRP has successively lost the $2, $1.8, and $1.5 levels and is now testing the $1.00 to $1.10 range. Compared with SOL, Ripple XRP price prediction is currently sitting much closer to a key psychological level. If the $1 level is defended, the price could form an accumulation base. However, if this level is lost, the $0.80 to $0.90 range could become the next support. So, if an asset has an institutional story, a fixed maximum supply, and the ability to ramp up due to regulatory or payment catalysts, XRP is a better choice, and the Ripple price may appeal to investors who believe that Ripple and the XRP ledger will become part of the global financial infrastructure. Conversely, if an ecosystem with a wide range of applications is prioritized, the need for tokens is clearer, and the ability to receive staking rewards over a holding period, SOL has a more compelling long-term argument. In turn, investors must accept high volatility, supply inflation, and ecosystem risks that depend on speculative cash flows. However, there is no one-size-fits-all option. Solana price prediction is better suited to risk-taking investors seeking growth, while XRP is better suited to those who believe in the future of payments and institutional finance on the blockchain. If you were given only one coin to hold for the long term, would you choose XRP or SOL? Leave your views below, subscribe to Crypto Radar, and turn on notifications so as not to miss further analysis of XRP news today, XRP analysis, crypto news today, Solana news, Solana update, and Solana analysis. The content in the video is intended to provide information only and not investment advice. Wish you always keep a cool head, make wise decisions, and achieve many successes on your investment journey. See you in the next videos of Crypto Radar.